Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Steven Melendez, and I'm going to be bringing you the latest and greatest in soccer news from around the world. Welcome back, everyone, to your favorite soccer podcast. We've got a lot to get into for today's show. I can't wait to start talking about it all with you guys. We got Champions League, we got domestic league talk, going to continuing my top 10 series. So let's just discuss what we're going to be talking about in today's show. First part of the show, going to be talking about, of course, the Champions League. We had a couple of the ties wrap up. We know who's already going to be in the quarterfinals. I'm going to be recapping those games. And I'm also going to be previewing the other second legs coming up later this week. So we're going to get into all that in the first part of the show. Second, I'm going to be continuing to talk about the Premier League. We got a lot of stuff going on. It looks like it could be wrapping up in terms of title talk, so we're going to get into that today. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the top 5 leagues, continue the same thing, talking about each of the top 5 leagues, which teams are heating up, which ones have kind of gone cold as the title races are starting to get down to that final stretch of the season. And then lastly, fourth segment, we're going to be talking about the top 10 Manchester United players this season. They have had a pretty solid year. They've gone through some ups and downs, but have certainly, been carried by a couple of big-time players, and we're going to be getting into who those are today. So let's just get started with the first segment. We're going to be talking about the Champions League. I first want to get into those games that we had play last week with Juventus taking on Porto, Dortmund and Sevilla, PSG and Barcelona, and then, of course, Liverpool and Rb Leipzig. I am going to get into those other ties coming up later this week because I really want to talk about, who I think is going to win, who's going to make the biggest impacts in those games, and which ones are we going to see going into the quarterfinals. So first, let's talk about that Juventus-Porto game. I mean, it had drama up until the very end, and when I was talking about that last week in my other show, I felt like I definitely thought Porto had a chance, because Porto played great in that first leg. They really gave it to Juve and made it tough for them to, really get into their flow in attack. But I just had the feeling that, of course, with Juventus having Ronaldo, though it obviously hasn't really made that big of a difference since he's joined them. They've been knocked out of the quarterfinals all 3 seasons. They had made it to, I believe it was I saw a stat that they had made it to at least the semifinal in 2 of the 3 years before his arrival. So clearly, but at the same time, I've said, yes, Ronaldo has been an excellent, he's a huge, huge player. He's the best player on this team, but they really have not had the same, complete team that we have seen from Juve over the years. It just is not the same. And they're relying on a lot of youth. They're relying on guys like Federico Chiesa to really come through and have big games, which he did here, but it just doesn't get much from other people. Like Aaron Ramsey didn't have a crazy game. Cuadrado is good in some situations, but he's still kind of inconsistent defensively. He was tough, but he allowed too many opportunities. They got Demi Rao in the middle. They can't really rely on Chiellini anymore because of his age. Bonucci is still a solid center back, but he's not, I don't know, he just doesn't feel to have that top center back in the world feel to anchor that defense. It's Szczesny I like, but it's just overall, this team just doesn't feel the same. And I did say that in regulation, I felt like Porto would have had the better chance to win because they had a big time lead going into the second leg, and I felt like it was really going to take a lot for Juve to get enough goals to take this into extra time or even win. It ended up going into extra time, but even then, I felt that Juve were going to win. And on top of that, with the fact that Porto had a man disadvantage for almost pretty much half this game. More than half this game, because he was Taremi was taken out in the 54th minute, and this game went into extra time. So for more than half of this game, Porto were at a man disadvantage. Yet they didn't allow that to sure, Juve got more opportunities when they had that extra man on the field, but it didn't really result in like legitimate chances. Like whenever Juve, it looked like they were getting some momentum, Porto would be there to at least disrupt them a bit and make the shots a little bit more difficult so that they couldn't get clear chances. But of course, it's Juve, so they're going to be getting up the floor, putting pressure on a team that has one less man on the field, and they're going to get opportunity. I mean, they had 31 shots in this game, 13 on target, while Porto, 14 shots, 7 on target. That's still decent, but of course, in a game where Juve needed to get like at least 4 goals. Like they needed to get 1 extra goal once Porto put 2 on them. And obviously that second one was late, 115th minute in the second half of that extra time. And it really put Juve on their heels. But luckily they were able to get a third goal from Adrien Rabiot in the 117th minute. They were able to answer back really quickly. So Juve still had some hope in there, but they just could not get the extra goal. But it just sucks that they had so many opportunities. Like Ronaldo had a few, Morata had a couple, but it just never felt like they were really like, I don't know how to explain it, like threatening. I did see that Cuadrado shot that hit the crossbar late in regulation. Like that one hurts, man, because that looked like a really good shot. But it's just, yeah, man, Juve just like the inconsistencies, bringing in players like I don't know why they didn't start Weston McKennie. I mean, that guy has been a great player for him, and yes, I'm an American, so I'm going to have a little bit of bias on the American players, but at the same time, like there's no denying that Weston McKennie has had a huge impact on what Juve has done this season. I remember seeing a stat that when he starts, they have I don't remember the stat exactly, so I don't want to go and ramble off numbers. But I remember that when he was off compared to when he starts, they're dramatically better. So I just don't like, he adds toughness to that midfield. He adds a threat in the attack because he loves to push up forward with the wingers and forwards. So like he adds a lot to the team, and that's kind of what they needed here, because Porto still got opportunities after opportunities that they just, they just allowed to happen far too often, and it cost them. It cost them a chance to get to the quarterfinals for a third. What am I trying to say here? Like they failed to get to a quarterfinal for a third straight year, and for a team with the quality and the prestige of Juventus, that's just absolutely just unacceptable. Like any Juve fan will tell you this should not have happened. Porto, that's possibly the easiest tie we could have possibly asked for. Like it's no slight to Porto. I mean, Champions League is a very competitive competition. There's a lot of good teams out here. But they're definitely in that bottom tier of teams left in the competition. It's just facts. And for Juve to lose this and not take advantage of the tie they were given, very poor effort. So they get what they deserve. 3-2 win for Juve, but they lose 4-4 on aggregate, with Porto winning on away goals. Next, we're going to talk about the Dortmund versus Sevilla tie. This game ended in a 2-2 draw, but really, it was all Dortmund. I mean, even though Sevilla did have a few opportunities, it never really felt like they were, consistently threatening Dortmund and trying to get back into this tie. Like they went into this game down 3-2 on aggregate, with Dortmund picking up 3 away goals. So they were already in a pretty big hole, even though yes, they did get 2 home goals, so they were, technically right there, but they needed to score 2 goals and not allow Dortmund to score in order to move on. And that was going to be tough, when you got Haaland, one of the best Champions League scorers at the moment. Like he actually leads the Champions League in goals scored. So he's been killing it. So there's absolutely no way they were going to shut out Dortmund, and that was proven very early. Erling Haaland got a very solid goal in the 35th minute. It looked like he got a brace off a ridiculous run, but I guess they called it off and they didn't count it. But he ended up getting a penalty regardless early on in that second half to make it 2-0 for Dortmund and to make it a 5-2 aggregate lead, which would now require Sevilla to have an absolute miracle to get back into it. And they just wouldn't be able to, because, obviously if they go 3-2 in this game, it goes to extra time, and then, of course, at that point, anything can happen, but they were just slightly short of that. Youssef En-Nesyri did, the best he could to get his team back into the game. He scored a penalty in the 68th minute to get them within within 2 for the extra time. And then in the 96th minute, which was pretty much the last minute of the game, he scored a very solid header with a cross from Rakitic, who barely played in this game. He got brought in, I don't remember, it was late in the game that he got brought on. Let me actually look at that real quick, because I thought it was 86th minute he got brought on for Fernando. With 5 minutes left in the game, you're going to bring on one of your most important players. I understand he's a little bit, up there in age, so he can't play a lot of minutes. But the 86th minute, I'm pretty sure, what is Lopetegui even thinking there? I think that was a very, very poor choice in that regard. And, to be able to have Rakitic for at least a full second half would have certainly changed this game. And you would probably have seen Sevilla make it at least into extra time. Not to say that, just because they have Rakitic, they win this game. Surely they needed a bit more here, a little bit more effort on the defensive end, a little bit more focus and execution on the attack. But, yeah, regardless, coming into this game, I felt like it was going to be a very tough, game for Sevilla. I didn't think they were going to have enough to move on here, because I just don't think Dortmund, they'd be able to really shut out Dortmund like that. I think they're way too dynamic in attack. They're way too versatile. Have way too many options that they can go to. And I was right. 2-2 end. Honestly, you got to be impressed with the effort that Sevilla came out with. They didn't quit after going down 2-0, 5-2 on aggregate. It's a big steep hill for anybody to try to climb, but they did try. They made it to 2-2, but it was still just too little, too late for them, and they will not be moving on to the quarterfinals. You will see Dortmund there for, I think this is I don't know. I don't think they didn't make it last year. They lost to PSG last year in the round of 16, but it's a big step, for young players like Haaland, Jadon Sancho. Obviously, you got veterans on that team like Marco Reus, Emery Can, who have kind of helped them also to develop and add to this pretty solid team. Not doing so well domestically, but in terms of Champions League, a quarterfinal appearance is a very solid step up from what they showed last season. Now let's move on to the PSG versus Barcelona game, and this one had me literally nervous super nervous. I can't really even put it into words, because the way PSG was playing made me feel like how I did a few years ago, when they couldn't find a way to get any stops. They couldn't hold any sort of momentum. It was just all Barcelona pretty much the entire game. PSG had a couple opportunities in terms of counterattacking. They when they would stop the ball or maybe get an interception, they pass it up to Kylian Mbappe, and he would kind of make some work, but he just didn't really make it happen. He just didn't have that same touch he had in the first leg, and it just felt like it was a possibility that this could get dangerous. Barcelona were getting a lot of attacking opportunities and a lot of shot chances at goal, but Dembele didn't really have his shooting boots here in this game. There were some clear-cut chances that he could have possibly put past Navas, but this was Navas's best game as a PSG player. He's been a great goalkeeper for so long, and he's been great for PSG as well. It's not to say he hasn't been, a breadwinner for us. The guy has been great between the sticks. Probably one of the best goalkeepers in PSG history. But this game was pretty much all Navas. Just him pretty much trying to command this team to, like, try harder, be more on top of this. Like, you're not giving the effort that we need to get out of this second leg comfortably. And they didn't. Like, even throughout the entire game, even with it being 1-1, for most of the game, because, in the 30th minute, Kylian Mbappe scored a penalty to make it 5-1 on aggregate, which felt great, because not that it changed how many goals Barcelona needed to score. They still needed to score 4, but even if they scored those 4, we'd go to extra time. Of course, I didn't even want anything near that, but then Lionel Messi, eventually you felt like Barcelona were going to make a breakthrough, because they were just getting opportunity after opportunity. Griezmann, being a factor with some headers, even though they weren't accurate, but still, they were getting opportunities. It just felt like sooner or later, Barcelona were going to make that breakthrough. And of course, who else but Messi, one of the GOATs, from literally, it felt like 30 yards out, just a screamer. Top left, Navas had no chance, and I was officially, on like nervous watch, literally crisis watch, because I did not, just the way PSG was defending this whole game, they were leaving so much space for their wingers, like Serginho Dest, he almost scored, but of course, like I said, Navas came through with a ridiculous save, went off the crossbar and was out of the danger area, but Serginho Dest was just getting space after space. Dembele, same thing. Like, it was just a mess, to be honest, from PSG defensively, and if they show that anymore moving forward, they might not even make it out of the quarterfinals, to be honest. They were lucky that they had such an incredible game 4-1. And I do also have to, mention that, yes, they don't have Neymar. They had Angel Di Maria late in the game. So they're obviously missing a few of those key pieces. Moise Kean didn't play in this game, but I'm not sure if he came off the bench. Let me double check that. Moise Kean, no, not even Moise Kean played. So that's obviously a big time, factor into what this team does. Moise Kean has been great. Neymar obviously being their number 10 and a big time part of what they do on both sides, because of course to be able to hold on to the ball the way he does and just manage the game from pretty much anywhere on the pitch is a game changer. And Moise Kean, the way he's able to play off of Mbappe and Neymar and even Di Maria when he gets healthier, I should say, because he was at least healthy enough to play in this game. It's a huge factor. He's been one of the best goal scorers in the world this season. Obviously, he's not, putting up those crazy goal scoring numbers, but with the chances he gets, he's been super efficient, and he's been a big time part. I mean, it's not even arguable to say that he's been better than Icardi this season. So, they're obviously missing some pieces, but man, it was scary. It was scary to see the way they were defending. Second, that penalty save that Navas had, that was the moment of the game. It was right before halftime. PSG, Kurzawa, of course Kurzawa, who gave up a penalty in the first leg, gives up another one here. He has shown flashes that he gets a little bit better, but he's always going to have these moments where he just loses all sense of, football, I guess I should say. He literally goes and kicks up while in the box at a Barcelona player to try to get the ball cleared out, and just completely misses it and hits the Barcelona player. And it was an obvious penalty, but thank God Keylor Navas just comes in and makes a huge leg save to keep Messi out of getting a first half brace, and having Barcelona have all the momentum heading into that second half. Because think about it, if it's 2-1, 5-3 on aggregate, Barcelona only need 2 goals in that second half with all the momentum in the world and all the confidence in the world, and I would have lost my mind. So thankfully, Navas came through in a big way to save PSG in this tie, keeping it at 1-1, and PSG move on. That's the most important thing to me. Barcelona, obviously, they're kind of in a transition year. They have Messi, but the talks just continue to get louder and louder that he could be on the way out. And so they obviously need to find a way to move on from that and kind of build a new identity. Because the identity for Barcelona for so many years, obviously, was the tiki-taka when they had Xavi and Andrés Iniesta. But then after that, it was like the MSN era with Neymar, Suarez, and Messi. But it's always been Messi. Like, that's always been, the catalyst for them. But now with him possibly on the way out, they need to kind of figure... I don't think Ronald Koeman is the issue. I think he's a decent coach. I mean, I don't think, or a manager or whatever. Like, he's not, like, a terrible manager. Maybe they could probably find someone better. I mean, there's always a better manager out there in people's eyes. It's always the case. But I think he's a fine choice for manager. But it's just, they need to get out of this era, move on, kind of surround your team with the players that you want, and players that want to be there, first and foremost. But, like, I really feel like that's where Barcelona need to get to in order to really turn the corner and start playing like the Barcelona of old. They just need to transition into that next era. And the fact that Messi stayed for that extra year, I mean, obviously all Barcelona fans are going to love it. They're going to want him to stay there forever. That's just the way it is. But it just doesn't seem likely at this point. And, for him to move on, and same thing for guys like Busquets and Piqué. Yes, for sure, with all that talent leaving, Barcelona will go through a transition year. At least one. But I honestly believe that's what they need in order to really change turn the corner. Because it's just like, trying to, like when Neymar left, they did everything they could to try to stay competitive, get Dembele, Lenglet. They got a bunch of guys, like on, what was it? I think, who was the other one? Malcolm that they brought in. They brought so many players in to try to, like, make their team competitive, and it just kind of, like, they just weren't the same. It really wasn't. The investments they made just weren't right, and it all kind of went downhill to the point where now they're playing solid in La Liga again, but it's kind of been a lost season this year. I mean, if they win La Liga, if they find a way to get over Atletico Madrid, which of course we're going to get into later, it would obviously, be a huge win for them. But, now that they lost in the Copa de España, they're in the Copa del Rey final, so that's huge. But now they're out of the Champions League. It's just been kind of a missed year for Barcelona, so that's how I feel that should go. But now, lastly, let's get into that Liverpool versus Rb Leipzig tie, where I was like I was saying in my last episode, I was expecting Liverpool to come in here and pretty much dominate. Like, even though RB Leipzig are a very good club, they're solid. They've been competing with Bayern Munich for the title this season. They have kind of taken that next step into, easily one of the best teams in Germany and one of the best teams in the world who you will absolutely consistently see in the Champions League year after year. I have no doubts in my mind. However, with Liverpool having such a bad year domestically, Champions League has allowed them to have a fresh mind and a fresh look on the game, and they come out a bit better. Like, this game was kind of tough for Liverpool in terms of attack, because as it has been pretty much all season, because they got so many opportunities in that first half, and they just did not put them home. Like Salah, Mane, Salah's been great this year. Mane has been a shell of what he was last year. It's just facts. Like, he just has not had that same flair, that same ability to get the ball in the back of the net. It's just not been there. And he did get a goal here, and obviously so did Salah. But it was in the second half, 70th minute, 74th minute, they scored to really put this tie away. Like, there was no chance for RB Leipzig to come back at that point with Liverpool getting those 2 away goals in the first leg. Leipzig at this point had to put up 5. That's not going to happen. But they had opportunities. I loved what I saw from Nkunku. He had a very solid game. Like, the way he's developed since leaving PSG, because I remember his days at PSG, they were very underwhelming. He didn't really do much. He looked way too young, looked way too unprepared, but clearly he just needed the reps, and he's getting them at RB Leipzig, and he's kind of turning into a very, very solid player that can, get teammates involved, kind of create for himself. And I just kind of love his all-around game. It's been very, very good to see. Upamecano, I'm very disappointed in him. I mean, he's still got that flash of potential that he can be, one of the best center backs in the world. and that's why he's getting so much looks from, big time clubs. But he had some very disappointing decision making in this game where I was like, what? Like, this isn't what I was seeing from him last year. It just kind of feels like that's kind of been what he's been doing this year. Maybe I need to look at a couple more RB Leipzig games, like in Bundesliga, to really kind of get an understanding of what he has been doing this year. But it was a bit of a disappointing game from him, kind of giving Liverpool a couple opportunities to score on them in the first half. Luckily, that never came to fruition. But RB Leipzig just couldn't get that chance at goal to really change the tie. They had 11 shots, only 2 of those on target, while Liverpool had 12 shots, 7 on target. But it just, Gulaxi made a couple good saves, and like even when they had a couple opportunities in the box, they just couldn't really put it home until late. But still, Liverpool were able to dominate. They should have led by more, but they get a 2-0 win and are moving on to the quarterfinals. At least to give them a little bit to look forward to during the season. So a 4-0 aggregate for them, and RB Leipzig crash out of the Champions League. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around, because when I come back, I'm going to be talking about the Premier League and all the things we have missed since the last time I talked to you guys right after this.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football, from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. If you missed the last segment, I did a Champions League recap of the second legs that just passed this week. And now we're going to be talking about the Premier League as it is wrapping up its season. We got just a few games left. I believe it's like 8 games left before the end of the season. And it feels like we've pretty much got that title wrapped up, with Manchester City just absolutely blowing out every team that they face. I mean, they did lose to Manchester United 3 games ago, which was a very convincing win by Manchester United. But, I mean, other than that, Manchester City has won, I believe it's like 23 or 24 of their last 25 games. It's just been they haven't lost in 24 of their last 25 games. It's just been an absolutely unbelievable stretch for Man City, dominating every team that they have faced. They just finished defeating, they had Man City versus Southampton. They defeated Southampton 5-2. Just a ridiculous game. They got a brace from Kevin De Bruyne, a brace from Riyad Mahrez, a goal from Ilkay Gundogan. Southampton did kind of make it a little bit competitive in the, early on in the game. They tied it up with a penalty from James Ward-Prowse. But by the time Che Adams got the second goal for Southampton in the 56th minute, it had already gone to 5-1, or 4-1, I should say. So an absolutely dominant performance for Man City, but that's been the way it has gone for Man City for a long, long time now. And I mean, we had a couple other games that were exciting to me. I saw Chelsea versus Leeds United this weekend. You had Burnley versus Everton, a pretty shocking result there. Man City then took on Fulham, because that Man City-Southampton game was not a makeup, but I guess a game that they were trying to do in advance, because there was going to be some contradictions with the schedule. But Man City took on Fulham and dominated them as well. Leicester City dominated Sheffield United. we had the London Derby between Arsenal and Tottenham. I was also excited to see this Man United versus West Ham game. It was going to be a big-time test for both teams. West Ham have been playing great, probably their best stretch for a very, very long time, as they're trying to make it into one of those top 5 spots. And Man United have been really battling, trying to keep it at least not like a blowout in the for second place. I mean, they're trying to hold on to that second place with Leicester City pretty much right behind them. But like I said, man, that first place, the title is pretty much a given, as Man City now with a game, they have an extra game played, but they have a 14-point lead with only 8 games left to play. So there is absolutely no chance for Man United to catch up there. There needs to be an absolute destruction going on at Man City, and Man United need to also get wins. So it's just everything needs to go right at this point for Man United or Leicester City to even have a chance at battling Man City for that title. But it's a foregone conclusion. Man City are winning this title. They just have not, just in terms of points and how many games are left, they haven't officially claimed it. So it's just been an absolute dominant season for Man City, and their defense, I need to say, has been incredible. But it's been a combination, man. I mean, they have the best offense in the league, the best defense in the league, and that combined gives them a plus 43 goal differential, which is almost twice as much as Man United, who have the second best in the league. It's just an absolutely incredible showing from them this season. Almost not as dominant as they were in that 100-point season that they had for one of their first titles, but it still has been an incredible season from them. I mean, let's just go into some of these games. I mean, Burnley defeated Everton 2-1, and they got on them early, man. And Chris Wood scored an early goal in the 13th minute. Dwight McNeil scored in the 24th to double their lead before DCL, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, was able to at least bring Everton within 1 in the 32nd minute. So they at least, have a little bit momentum going into the half. But that was pretty much all she wrote. I mean, Everton had, a good amount of possession, 66%, had about the same amount of shots, but I mean, they've been dealing with a lot of nagging injuries throughout this season. James Rodriguez has not been able to stay consistent on the field, and even when he does play, the fact that he's on and off with injuries has really messed with his consistency. They do have Alan back, but he's also missed time. Doucouré has also missed time, and those 3 guys were supposed to be their midfielding trio, which has not really played together for some time now. I cannot remember the last time I saw James Rodriguez, Doucouré, and Alan all playing in the midfield at the same time, and that's an issue, especially when you got incredible forwards like Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison who need, and I like what Iwobi gives you, but I mean, Davies I'm not a fan of. Gomez, he shows flashes, but he's inconsistent as well. When you have those top guys like Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison as your top forwards, the guys who are going to score for you, you need quality midfielders behind them that can deliver solid balls into the box, and they just don't have that right now. They don't have that consistently enough, and that's why they keep they're just not playing consistently, and that's a big reason why they lost this game in particular. And they now have 2 straight losses after playing pretty solid over the last couple weeks or the last couple games before these 2 straight losses, and they're just on the outside of the top 5 looking in, 2 points behind West Ham, 5 behind Chelsea, and it's going to be a very close race down the stretch to see who can get one of those top 5 spots. I know that's always the challenge for all these top teams like Tottenham, Liverpool, Arsenal, Everton. They're always trying to at least finish top 4. I mean Liverpool, their expectations were higher, but I mean now they gotta kind of level them, adjust those expectations. But because just getting into the top 5 could be a challenge, towards the end of the season, because they're 5 points behind West Ham, and they have not been playing great. They only got 1 win in their last 5 games. The other 4 were losses, so they need to step it up. And this kind of ties into that, because they now take on the Wolves. That game hasn't gone on yet. Maybe by the time you guys are listening to this, it will have happened. But they haven't played yet this week. They need to get a win. It's not even a question. They need to get this win to try to, get some momentum, because you look at their next couple games. I'm going to go and look at that real quick for you guys. They take on the Wolves, then they take on Arsenal, who have been playing better of late. Aston Villa is always going to be a tough game. Leeds United, same thing. They're competitive. Newcastle could be an easy one, but then they take on Man United. Southampton, depending on which team shows up. West Brom's an easy one. Burnley just defeated Everton, so who knows? And then Crystal Palace. So they have a couple games that they could easily win, but then there's other games mixed in there that they need to play better in. And of course, they're going to have to worry about the Champions League as well. So there's going to be a lot of games mixed in there that's going to congest their schedule. And it's going to be tough. There's going to be a lot of tired players out there. And they can't drop any more points. But Man United don't have to worry about that. They were able to defeat West Ham 1-0 today. And funny thing, it was off an own goal. So this was actually a very, very tight game. Although Manchester United are obviously better than West Ham, and they showed it in this game. They had 63% possession. They had more shots. They made it very difficult for West Ham to really get going offensively. They could find literally no rhythm in attack. They had 7 shots. Not one was on target, so they had a very, very tough time of finding any sort of rhythm in this game. And Man United were at least able to be rewarded with that, dominance of play, with an own goal from West Ham player Craig Dawson in the 53rd minute to make it 1-0. And they rode that 1-0 lead to a win, get all 3 points, and stay ahead of Leicester City for second place in the Premier League table. Now, for West Ham, this is certainly a tough loss. I mean, this was one of their worst showings over the last couple weeks, because even that loss against Man City, they looked very, very solid in that game, very competitive. This game was definitely not that. They didn't show up here. But even with that loss, and even with the 2 losses in their last 3 games, they're still in 5th place. They're still 2 points ahead of Everton, 3 points ahead of Tottenham. They're only 3 points behind Chelsea. But they need to continue to, show that they have what it takes to be up here with the top 5. They've done it for most of the season. They do have a couple hard games coming up. They take on Arsenal next, Wolves, Leicester City. Newcastle's mixed in there, but then they got Chelsea after that. They take on Everton, another tough team. So they got a lot of tough games that can easily go, one way or the other. So they need to take advantage of the games that they have in front of them and just try to get as many points as possible. This was a missed opportunity, but again, they're taking Manchester United. Manchester United are a very solid team. So you can't really, say, oh, you should have gotten some points here. I mean, with the way Man United played, not taking advantage of their opportunity, sure, you could have expected West Ham to maybe get a shot here or there, maybe make it a 1-1 game and try to at least salvage a point. But that didn't happen. They didn't show up here. And surprising, you had a Dean Henderson start here for Manchester United, and he didn't really have any work to do. You still had Luke Shaw, one of the best fullbacks in the league this season. Fernandez, Mason Greenwood got the start up top instead of Martial. Rashford, of course, always being there on the left wing. Daniel James has been getting a lot more looks for Man United. I mean, his pace has really been a game changer for them. Fred, McTominay within in the midfield as well. So, and for West Ham, they did not have Jesse Lingard. They didn't have Jesse Lingard playing in this game, so that obviously, hurts them in the attack. Mikel Antonio was up top. Mark Noble, the West Ham legend, was in the midfield. Thomas Susak, Declan Rice always being there. So they had some players, but just the center back, Craig Dawson, getting that own goal certainly hurt them. Fabianski between the sticks is certainly always a plus for them, but yeah, they just didn't have it offensively. Jesse Lingard was certainly missed here. But other than that game, I mean, Leicester City absolutely dominated Sheffield United. The Wilder era, the post-Wilder era for Sheffield United certainly has not gotten off to a strong start. A 5-0 loss to Leicester City. And Leicester City are one of the best teams in the Premier League, but Sheffield United had showed some signs of being at least a little competitive. Not that they're, that's going to save them from relegation. I mean, they're gone. They're going to the championship next season. That is a plain fact. But this was just a absolute drubbing here. I don't know how you say his name, but Iheanacho got a hat trick with some very, very strong goals, some great passes from Jamie Vardy, man, because that guy can do it all. Ayoze Perez scored in the 64th minute, making it, at that point it was 2-0, but then Iheanacho scored 2 goals after that to make it 4-0. And then, of course, and just to add, to what's been a terrible game for Sheffield United, Ampadu scored an own goal in the 80th minute. Not a good game for anybody there. Ampadu in particular lost the ball a couple times, kind of led to goals for Leicester City. But, I mean, it's a big-time game for Leicester City, man. Took care of business, absolutely dominated Sheffield United, did not give them any hope, and moved on with a 5-0 victory there. Now let's talk about that London derby, man. Arsenal taking care of business against Tottenham 2-1, even though it was a little back and forth between these teams early on in the game. Unfortunately, Song picked up a hamstring injury, had to come off for Eric Lamela, but I mean, Lamela came in and really had a big-time impact for this Tottenham team. Came up with a Redonda in the 33rd minute with like 3 Arsenal players in front of him to hit the bottom right side of the post. Just ridiculous. Like, when I saw that goal, I had to replay that like a couple times to really understand like what he was thinking, to actually try to go for that and to pull it off. On top of that, it was just incredible goal from Eric Lamela to give Tottenham a 1-0 lead and that momentum. But that celebration was short-lived. Martin Odegaard, the loanee from Real Madrid, would score his first Premier League goal for Arsenal in the 44th minute. Huge goal for them right before halftime to kind of take that momentum back. And you didn't get any Aubameyang in this game for apparently disciplinary reasons. I'm not 100% sure what it was for, but they didn't have their star man in there. But Lacazette filled in very nicely. He's always going to make those big runs, always get in the opportunities to score. And he eventually did score for them in the 64th minute via penalty. And that gave Arsenal a 2-1 win. And a huge performance from them, because it always, I've said it a bunch of times, it all depends what Arsenal team is going to show up. They've been inconsistent. Like, over the past 5 games, they got a win, then a loss, another win, and then a draw, and then a win. So it's like back and forth. They haven't really been consistent. Their defense has been solid. Offense, you would want to see a little bit more from them, but they got a lot of young players there with like Saka, Martin Odegaard now, the Smith Rowe. They've been having to put in there to kind of try to give Aubameyang or Lacazette opportunities to score the ball. So in terms of offense, I'm not really going to blame them too much, because like I said, they do have a lot of youth in those positions. But defensively, they've been better than what I was expecting. I could definitely say that. A lot better than what I was expecting this season. They're allowing just over a goal per game, which you'd want better, but I was expecting an atrocious defense from Arsenal this season. So to see them doing that, it's been a decent showing from them. And honestly, just overall, very solid win from Arsenal. I'm sure their fans are buzzing right now with the win that they got over their rivals, Tottenham. And seeing Tottenham kind of struggle, even though they did get 3 straight wins before this game, they've been kind of inconsistent as well in pretty much this whole second half of the season. And to get that win over them is absolutely huge. Chelsea unable to get 3 points this week, getting a goalless draw against Leeds United. However, they have still not lost with Thomas Tuchel as the manager. So that streak continues. Their defense has been better, holding Leeds United to just 7 shots. They had Chelsea had primary possession, or I should say the most of the possession, whatever. But and more shots. They had 15 shots, 8 of those on target. So they had a decent game overall, but they just couldn't unlock that Leeds United defense and really get that game-winning goal. They unfortunately do not get a goal in this game and have to settle for a point. Leeds United saw a decent performance from them. I mean, even though Chelsea certainly dominated them, it's just they were at least able to hold on and get a point in this game. Especially after before that game they had lost 3 of their last 4, so they needed to find some sort of momentum, a decent performance, because they've been pretty average this season. I think I've said this before, after starting the season off pretty well and looking like, like a surprise team this year, they kind of settled back down to being like just an average mid-level team, mid-table team in the Premier League. I do expect them to be better next year. Probably adding some more pieces, getting the guys that they added, for in the I guess you would say like the winter transfer now. We're looking good, but yeah, it was a decent performance from them and a missed opportunity for Chelsea. After that, I mean, that was pretty much it. I mean, I didn't talk about Man City's 3-0 win over Fulham, but I mean, it's just the way it's been going for Man City. I mean, John Stones, all the goals came in the second half and in pretty quick succession. They got 3 goals in 13 minutes. John Stones opened up the second half with a goal, then Gabriel Jesus in the 56th minute, and then Sergio Aguero scoring a penalty in the 60th minute. Can't remember the last time Sergio Aguero has gotten a goal for Man City, so that's a great sight to see, especially with him dealing with so many injuries this season. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for this segment. Make sure you guys stick around, because when I come back, I'm going to be talking about the other top 5 leagues. Kind of same thing, getting into the games, into how the tables are looking right after this.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. If you missed the last segment, we talked about the Premier League, talked about the games that happened this past weekend, and discussed what is going on at the tables, as we now have Manchester City pretty much pulled away from the rest of the pack, and it's pretty much guaranteed that they're going to be winning the title this season. And now we're going to be talking about the other top 5 leagues. We're going to get into Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga, Liga, all of it. We're going to get into the games, talk about the tables, which teams are pulling away, what title races are heating up. Let's do it right now. Starting with the Bundesliga. I mean, it's been pretty much a 2-team race this whole year. It kind of looked like it was going to end up being Bayern Munich just kind of, having another one of those dominant Bundesliga seasons where they just pull away from everybody. However, Rb Leipzig has been extremely competitive. There have been a couple teams behind them like Wolfsburg and Eintracht Frankfurt that have really surprised people this season with some incredible play. They are starting to hit a bit of a rough patch, even though Wolfsburg do have 3 wins in their last 4. You got Frankfurt that now have 2 draws and a loss in their last 3 games. Certainly dropping points there, but you got to be impressed with the fact that they're even in this situation this late into the season. You would expect a team like Dortmund, Bayer Leverkusen, Mönchengladbach even to be in that 3 to 5 range with if RB Leipzig, were playing this well this season. But you got Wolfsburg, Frankfurt, Dortmund in 5 at the if the season ended today, Dortmund would have a Europa League bid. They wouldn't even be in the Champions League next season. So, just incredible performances for them. But now let's see what happened this weekend, I should say, and who was able to take care of business. Now, you got Mönchengladbach. Borussia Mönchengladbach, who are now in the round of 16 of the Champions League. I mean, they could not be by the end of, I would say, this week. However, they are there right now. And they have absolutely faltered domestically. They now got a 3-1 loss to Augsburg to now make it 4 straight losses in the Bundesliga. 4 straight losses. Like, they have been playing absolutely atrocious. And I mean, it's not even close. I mean, a 3-1 loss to Augsburg, a team that has been, pretty much like lower table all season long. Like, they've been in that 13-14 range pretty much all season long. They kind of separated themselves a bit with 2 wins in their last 3 games, but for the most part, they have been that low in terms of almost in like a relegation battle. But it's just like, but with Borussia Mönchengladbach, 33 points. They're behind teams like Union Berlin, Stuttgart, SC Freiburg. Only 3 points ahead of Hoffenheim, who have had a terrible season this year. And it's just like, relative to expectations, but it has just been such a struggle for Mönchengladbach. I don't know whether it's the congestion of their schedules, because obviously it gets tough when you got a lot of, DFB Pokal Cup games. You got a lot of Champions League games mixed in there, along with, of course, the amount of Bundesliga games that you're getting week after week. I understand it gets tough, but man, you lose to Augsburg, and then you lose 3 straight games to like your pretty much close competition. Bayer Leverkusen, they lost 1-0. They lost 1-0 to Borussia Dortmund in the DFB Pokal quarterfinal. They lose 3-2 to Rb Leipzig. They lose 2-1 to Mainz. So even the teams that you would expect them to beat, they're not doing it. Köln, they lost 2-1. Union Berlin, they tied 1-1. Wolfsburg, they tied 0-0. So it's been a very, very rough stretch for Mönchengladbach. Not much, positivity to look at all. I mean, they do have a very, very strong team. A lot of quality in there. Marcus Thuram, Brielle Mbolo, Jan Sommer between the sticks, Florian Neuhaus, Dennis Zakaria, like they have Alessandro Plea. I mean, they got Lars Stindl as well. They got plenty of talent. Even Nico Elvedi, Matthias Ginter. The list goes on and on. I can name a bunch of them, but they're just not working together and they're just not getting results. And that's why they're now 10th in the league. 10th. Now, Wolfsburg, on the other hand, they keep dominating. They keep taking care of business. They got 5 goals on Schalke. I mean, Schalke are the worst team in the Bundesliga by far. So they had to take care of business here. But they dominated. 5-0 win over Schalke. It started with an own goal in the 31st minute by Mustafi, the newly acquired veteran defender that was supposed to make Schalke a little bit better. Not happening. And then all the other goals happened in the second half. They got a goal from Weghorst. They got a goal from Baku, Brecalo, Maximilian Philipp. All 4 scored to make Wolfsburg get a 5-0 victory over Schalke and continue their dominant run in the Bundesliga this season. And, I mean, if they can, I have no doubt in my mind that they're going to end up getting a Champions League spot this season. I do not see this team faltering so much or playing inconsistent to the point where they lose enough points to fall out of the top 4. I'm that confident in Wolfsburg. Now, Frankfurt, it's up and down. It all depends if their offense can really hit it, like if they can really get it going. Because if it can't, I don't think their defense is good enough to really stop enough teams. They did well this week. They got a 1-1 draw over Rb Leipzig, which is solid. It hurts Rb Leipzig a bit. They at least, salvage a point to stay ahead. Kamada scored in the 61st minute after Emil Forsberg opened up the second half with a goal in the 46th minute to give RB Leipzig the lead, though for like a short 15 minutes. But yeah, like Frankfurt, they were kind of weak in this game. Only had 5 shots, 2 of those on target. RB Leipzig pretty much dominated this game from start to finish. They were just not able to really take advantage of that dominance, and that's kind of what you want to, as a good team, as a team that's as good as RB Leipzig, they need to take care of that business because Bayern Munich is going to take care of business. They took on Werder Bremen, who, have a striker in Josh Sargent, who has been really killing it. Last 3 games, he's got 3 goals, and he's just been a really solid player for them. He didn't score in this one. Werder Bremen were pretty much dominated throughout this game. Leon Goretzka, Serge Gnabry scored in the first half to make it 2-0 heading into the half. And then you have Robert Lewandowski, of course, like who else, to score in the 67th minute to make it 3-0 and pretty much end this game for Werder Bremen. They were able to get at least a consolation goal in the 85th minute, my apologies, and they were able to at least get that consolation goal. But still, Bayern Munich dominated this game, got a 3-1 win, and it was pretty easy for them. Like, you looked at this game, if you looked at the highlights or if you watched the game live, you could just tell by the way Bayern Munich were just controlling the tempo of the game that they had no problems with dealing with Werder Bremen. And getting this 3-1 win really is a big boost for their title hopes because, they now got a 4-point lead over Rb Leipzig after they got a draw against Frankfurt. And, even though it's only a 4-point lead can easily change next week, Bayern can pick up a loss and RB Leipzig win, and that's it. Especially with the game coming up between Bayern and RB Leipzig on April 3rd. That's going to be huge, huge. They also have to take on Union Berlin, and then they have some tough games. They take on Wolfsburg, they take on Leverkusen. They got a couple easy ones mixed in there as well. Mainz, Mönchengladbach. I'm not going to call that a tough game because the way Mönchengladbach's playing, anybody can roll over them. Then you got SC Freiburg and Augsburg to end the season. So that RB Leipzig-Bayern game is going to go a long way into saying who's going to win the title this season. If RB Leipzig can find a way to get a win there, this is going to be one of the tightest races in the Bundesliga for some time. So I'm looking forward to seeing the finish here, but that's pretty much going to wrap it up for the Bundesliga. So let's move on over to Serie A, where it seems like the title has pretty much been decided. I told you guys when Inter Milan were kicked out of the Champions League that their focus was going to be primarily on Serie A. Like, they had no other reason to focus on anything else. I believe they were eliminated from pretty much every other competition, if I'm not mistaken. Let me actually look at this. Internacional. Let's see. So they were obviously eliminated from the Champions League. They lost in the semifinal to Juventus in the Coppa Italia, and that's it. They didn't have anything else to look forward to. So it was literally Serie A or nothing in terms of trophies this season. So all of their attention was on that. While AC Milan having to deal with Europa League, they got other things on them, and they got more games compiled. I'm not saying that that's an excuse for AC Milan. It's just that Inter had a 100% focus on the Serie A title, and they have been dominating their competition. And they've been good all season, but they are absolutely killing it since they pretty much were out of the Champions League and out of European competition. AC Milan has tried to keep up with them. They've had a couple good games, but the consistency is absolutely not there. Over the last 5 games for AC Milan, a loss, a win, a draw, a win, and then a loss again. So it has just not been there for AC Milan since that start of, that huge surge at the start of the season. They just have not had that same type of effect. And it's even allowed a team that has also been playing great, Juventus, to only be 1 point behind them with a game in hand. So they can easily fall down to 3 by the end of this season. And it's been a tough way for them to finish this year off, especially with Inter Milan. Now Inter Milan have a 9-point gap between AC Milan and them. So it looks like Inter Milan were able to really just take care of business and really make that separation, because now it's really their season to lose. But you look at some of the other teams that took care of it. Atalanta took care of business versus Spezia with a 3-1 win. Lazio defeated Crotone 3-2. Sassuolo defeated Verona 3-2. That's a solid win for them. But yeah, Inter Milan defeated Torino 2-1. And then Milan lost to Napoli 1-0 after Politano was able to score in that second half. Milan had a few opportunities, just couldn't take advantage of them. It was just a poor performance from them, and we've been seeing a lot of that as of late. A lot. Juventus took care of business versus Cagliari 3-1. And you love to see Juventus, kind of doing that for them. But and especially when you got Ronaldo getting hat tricks, like, you obviously know he's still got it. He's still a beast. He's one of the best players of all time. But that's still not going to deny the fact that they just got eliminated by Porto. This was obviously just like kind of like let me try to erase my memory. Let me get a good game out here, and they took care of business versus Cagliari. But another big time loss by one of the top teams in Serie A, Roma, losing to Parma 2-0. Parma, who have been dealing with a relegation battle all season long, don't have a win in their last 5 games, get a 2-0 win over Roma. And a Roma team that dominated this game from start to finish, but then you get Parma getting 2 goals against the run of play, one in the 9th minute, another in the 55th minute via penalty by Hernani Jr. And just a disappointing performance from Roma. 21 shots, only 6 on target. And with this loss, they have 2 losses now in their last 4 games. This drops them out of the top 5. Roma have pretty much been in the top 3, top 4 all season long. And now with Atalanta winning 4 of their last 5, Napoli having 3 wins and a draw in their last 4, Juve 4 wins and a draw in their last 5. Those teams are playing well at the right time. Roma have dropped points, and they're now on the outside of the top 5 looking in, man. So it's a crazy, and I was surprised that Roma were there so long. Their defense has been very atrocious this season. Like I've said a bunch of times, it's one of the worst in the league this year. Definitely the worst out of anybody in the top 7. Out of any of the top teams, not including Sassuolo, who have allowed just 1 goal more than them, they have the worst defense. And they just have not had it. It's not been the same feeling Roma team that we had last year, even though they held a top spot for longer. And, I feel like they had an opportunity to easily have a Champions League spot this season. With teams like Juventus not playing at the same, top level that they had, Atalanta not playing at that top level that they were last season. They had opportunities, but they have missed them and are in the outside of the top 5. Napoli, it was a great win for them to take care of business versus AC Milan, getting that narrow 1-0 victory. But and now they're in that top 5, hopefully trying to get into that top 4. But I would love to see Atalanta in the Champions League again. Especially with them having to deal with the change of Papu Gomez. I've said that plenty of times on the show. I feel like that really is a huge transition for them since he was like the key to their attack. For them to find the adjustments and actually still be able to play well, I absolutely love it, and I feel like they certainly deserve to be a Champions League spot. And I feel like these 4 teams, Inter Milan, AC Milan, Juventus, and Napoli, and Atalanta, should be the Champions League team. So if it stays like this, I'll be happy, but we still got a few more games to go, so anything can change. But now let's move on to La Liga, where things are certainly heating up in that title race. Atletico Madrid continue to drop a few points here and there over their past 5 games. They do have 2 wins, but they got 2 draws and a loss in there as well. Not as good as Real Madrid and Barcelona have done over the past couple games. Real Madrid have 3 wins and 2 draws. Barcelona have 4 wins and a draw, so they've both kind of gained a little traction in that title race. Right now, Barcelona have a game in hand on Barcelona. Barcelona have a game in hand on Atletico Madrid. So if they're able to win this game, they're only 4 points behind them. They're only 4 points behind Atletico Madrid. Again, the way Atletico has played with, the combination of their defense, their offense being very strong, they still have a big-time chance to win the title this season. You look at their last few games, they take on Alaves. They do have a big game against Sevilla. They do have a game against Barcelona as well, so that is going to be a huge game. But then they take on Real Betis, Huesca, Eibar, Elche, Osasuna, Valladolid. They have some easy games mixed in there that they can certainly take advantage of and win and actually run away with this title. However, with Real Madrid and Barcelona right on their heels, they're certainly going to be feeling that pressure. But they need to, just kind of kind of take it, man. It's there for them. They got to take it. So let me just talk about a few of the games that have happened in La Liga this past weekend. Yes, Atletico Madrid dropping points to a Getafe team who has been near the bottom of the league all season. Have 3 losses, a win, and a draw. Well, this now being the draw against Atletico Madrid over their past 5 games. So it was a very poor performance from Atletico, especially with Getafe not really doing much throughout this game, getting dominated in possession, having 11 shots but only 2 on target. So this was definitely a game that Atletico Madrid could have easily won. They just didn't do it, and that's going to hurt them in the long run, especially when you consider that Getafe were at a man disadvantage for about, 20 minutes, 20 of the final minutes of this game. So big time dropped, missed opportunity for Atletico Madrid. And then you had Real Madrid winning their game against Elche, a brace from Karim Benzema, especially a late winner in the 91st minute to give Real Madrid that 2-1 win over Elche, who actually opened up the scoring in this game by Dani Calvo in the 61st minute. But then you got Karim Benzema equalizing and then winning for Real Madrid, being their savior once again. You're always going to look at Karim Benzema to create and score the goals for Real Madrid. That's just facts. We also had Granada defeating Real Sociedad 1-0. A goal from Barahona. Huge win for Granada. I'm always rooting for them, especially since they haven't been playing great over their past few games. And on top of that, Real Sociedad has kind of figured things out a bit after a really big stumble in the mid parts of the season. But yeah, this puts Granada kind of in that range of Villarreal, Real Betis, Real Sociedad for actually against Real Sociedad now, they're 9 points behind them, so I really don't think there's a chance there. But they're 4 points behind Villarreal, 6 points behind Real Betis to get a top finish, a top 7, top 6 finish in the league. That would be very impressive for this for this Granada's club. Let's see what else we got. Sevilla defeating Real Betis. That is a huge game. Real Betis, like I had just said, have been playing very well. They have made it into the top 6, right behind teams like Real Sociedad, and obviously Sevilla has made that separation where they're kind of in that tier B, a little bit below Barcelona and Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, but ahead of teams like Real Sociedad, Real Betis. So I don't really consider them at that same level, but still, Sevilla were able to dominate that game and defeat Real Betis, hand them their first loss in 4 games now. I'm going to look at that real quick. But yeah, they defeat Alaves, they defeated Cadiz, Getafe, Villarreal, and then they had lost to Barcelona. So yeah, Real Betis were on that 4-game winning streak, but Sevilla handed them that first loss in a few games. So big time game for Sevilla. They got another goal from Youssef En-Nesyri, who's having a very solid season for them. Coming into the season, I was expecting a Luke de Jong to really dominate, but it's been Youssef En-Nesyri to be their guy there. And now quickly, let's go to Ligue 1 before we finish this segment. Man, disappointing stuff from PSG this week. Losing to 19th place Nantes. I mean, it just continues to show that they just don't show up for these games. The first goal in technically PSG got off to a decent start, kind of dominated a lot of that first half and looked solid. It ended with a Julian Draxler goal in the 42nd minute. So they went into the half up 1-0. Obviously, you would want them to build on that. But then in the second half, Kylian Mbappe gives up a terrible pass to give Nantes pretty much a free counterattack, which was then finished by Randal Kolo in the 59th minute to equalize with PSG. And then in the 71st minute, Moses Simon scored the game winner to give Nantes a 2-1 win over PSG. Absolutely terrible. When you consider the possession, PSG had 75%. They didn't have anything to show from that dominance, and it was just a poor performance. Luckily for them, Lille drew against Monaco, Lyon drew against Reims, so they didn't get, they didn't really drop, those 3 points and are now 6 points behind or 5 points behind Lille and are now in third place. No, they're still in second place, behind Lille by 3 points, so they still need to win games. They can't afford to keep losing. They have 7 losses this season. That's more than Lyon and Lille combined. That's just unacceptable if you're PSG. It's unacceptable. They're used to having the best defense in the league. Lille beats them in that department. That's not going to cut it if you're PSG. I'm super disappointed in what they have shown domestically. They get wins, and it looks like they kind of got it going, but then they come out like this and just absolutely fall apart against a team like Nantes. So, it's absolutely Renato Sanchez came out recently saying he believes that Lille can, kind of come up with a huge, upset here and win the league title over PSG. And I'm sort of starting to believe him, because PSG is dropping points left and right. Lille are consistently being competitive. That game against, Bordeaux the other week, where they were down like most of the game, not down, but they were like tied for most of the game. Nothing was really going. An extra time came, and it looked like they were going to get a draw. Jonathan David, I should say, scored 2 goals in like 3 minutes to give Lille the lead. So they have that, an ignite ability to really like change the game. So I have no doubt in my mind that Lille could absolutely win the title. Do I want them to? Of course not. I'm a PSG fan. I want PSG to win every single title, but they're just not showing me enough. And now they got a game next week against Lyon, followed by a game on April 3rd against Lille. 2 of the biggest games that they will have this whole season. Can they step up and win? These 2 games are going to decide whether PSG can win the title or not. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Hope you guys enjoyed. Now we're going to be moving on to the top 10 Manchester United players this season right after this.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. If you missed the last segment, we talked about the top 5 leagues, went over some of the games that happened this past weekend, and obviously went over the table, as all those title races are nearing its conclusion. And now we're going to be talking about the top 10 Manchester United players this season. It has been kind of a tale of 2 halves. Manchester United didn't really get off to a really hot start this season. Same thing could be said about Manchester City, who I did a top 10 for in my last show. But like with them, it took a little longer for them to really hit their stride. But when they did, they're easily one of the most talented rosters in the entire Premier League. That's why they're right at the moment number 2 at the time of this recording. And I don't know. I'm not a Manchester United fan, and with the team, I feel like it's very top heavy. I feel when it comes to the depth on this team, it's lacking considerably. So it was kind of tough for me to put this top 10 together, because there's a lot of notable players on this team, and there's some guys that have been great for them, but not anymore. And it's a really up and down roster. So let's just get started with number 10, David De Gea. Now, David De Gea, this is nowhere near the David De Gea of old. You look at his stats. I mean, in 29 starts, he's allowed 1.3 goals per 90 minutes. He's got a 66 save percentage. 10 clean sheets in those 29 matches. Like, he's been okay. Like, that's pretty much all I can say. He's been okay, but the thing is, still having a goalkeeper of his caliber, his experience. Right now he's still only 30 years old, so he's at a solid age for a goalkeeper. It's just, it looks so much worse than it is because of what they have behind them. Like, Dean Henderson is starting to get a couple of Premier League matches under his belt for Manchester United. Obviously, he had an incredible season last year for Sheffield United, but this season, he's getting a couple Premier League matches here and there. David De Gea has primarily taken over those Premier League games, but, you see Dean Henderson in cup matches, and like, he's got great potential. At 24 years old, he absolutely should be the starting goalkeeper for this team. But I still feel like the experience, the leadership that De Gea brings between those sticks is far greater than anything Dean Henderson can actually give. Like, David De Gea is still a solid goalkeeper in the world. Like, if he's on the market, like, a team will scoop him up, extremely quick because he's that good. But, obviously he's a shell of what he used to be, of what we expected him to be when he was flashing all that brilliance early on in his career. But he's still, in my opinion, just good enough to be here at number 10. He beat out a couple players that maybe you guys will have on your top 10, like Victor Lindelof. I really couldn't fit him in here. Mason Greenwood, like, he's shown flashes. At just 19 years old, he still has got a lot of potential. Got 4 goals, 4 assists this season, but it's just been far too inconsistent. Obviously, he's still got a lot of growing pains to go through as a 19-year-old, so I just couldn't put him here either. Who else did I leave off this list? Edinson Cavani hasn't really played enough for the team. He does have, a lot of impact when he's in there. I just haven't seen enough of him to really give him that top 10 spot. But, I guess he would probably have been the closest, him or Mason Greenwood, to passing up David De Gea. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm giving him this spot because of what he has done instead of what he's doing this season, which maybe isn't the right way to go about it. I just still think that David De Gea is good enough to be number 10 on this list. At number 9, I have Anthony Martial. Now, I was expecting Anthony Martial to easily be a top 7, top 6 player for this team this season. Like, after what he did last year, putting up 20 plus goals for the season, and easily being a perfect running mate with Marcus Rashford. He has certainly taken a step back this season. He's got 7 goals, 5 assists in all competitions, and has taken that step back to Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford, which is expected. Those are 2 incredible talents, and Anthony Martial just doesn't have it consistently. He makes solid runs. But the thing is, there's times when, like, he'll have a shot on goal and he's not accurate enough with it. And, like, his passing, I'll look at his passing now. He's got an 82.5% passing completion of about, I don't know, I guess I would say like 20-something passes per game. Doesn't really get a lot of, he does have 22 key passes, which is solid, like, for his, how many games has he played this season? He has played 35 games, so that's less than a key pass per game, but still 22 is not bad. But it's just, I don't know, I feel like you can get a lot more from Anthony Martial than you have this season. He's still considered a top 10 player for the team, but it's just, he's not giving it on a consistent basis. And even when he's been at his highest, like the best he's been this season, it really has not been what we saw from him last season. Now at number 8, I have Scott McTominay. I feel like his presence in the midfield, even though it's kind of come at they've needed him to fill that role with guys like Paul Pogba, Juan Mata having to deal with a lot of injuries this season. And I'm sure they would prefer him over a guy like Nemanja Matic. Fred has probably been the best midfielder for them this season. He has been. It's not really a question to me. Unless you consider Marcus Rashford a midfielder, then fine, obviously it would be him. But I consider Marcus Rashford more of an attacking player, like a forward, someone that can move up and play more in that number 9 spot. But obviously he's great as a playmaker and fitting that number 10 spot. But regardless, I'm talking like central midfielders. Scott McTominay has been a very good second midfielder alongside Fred. He's very tough. He's got a big body, and he plays really strong defense. His passing has been decent. And his goal scoring has been very solid as well. I mean, 7 goals in all competitions this season. I'm pretty sure a lot of people were not expecting that out of him this season. And when you look at his passing, I mean, an 86% pass completion of about, that's like maybe 30-something passes, close to 40 passes per game. You know, he's been solid, 15 key passes, and he just 100 passes in the final third. So he certainly, does help out in a lot of different ways. And I think it's more his versatile playing. It's his ability to be able to help out in attack, make some decent runs, but also get back in defense and anchor that midfield. And that's why he comes in at number 8. At number 7, this might be a controversial list, especially for any Manchester United fans listening, but I got Paul Pogba. There's no denying that Paul Pogba is not the same type of player that he was in Juve, and even when, his first year or two here at Manchester United. But there is still no denying his talent. Like, he is an absolute talent when he's, clicking on all cylinders. And there's a reason that fans voted him as the January Player of the Month for Manchester United, because he was playing that good. At the turn of the year, he just flipped a switch and just started playing at the level that many were expecting from Paul Pogba from the minute he joined Manchester United. Controlling the midfield, being a dominant presence in that midfield. Like, I honestly feel like Paul Pogba would start over Scott McTominay pretty much every game had he been healthy for, if he hadn't picked up that injury in the beginning of February. Like, he would be their regular starter alongside Fred. But it's just the fact that, the consistencies at the beginning of the season and then obviously like that nice stretch from January to the beginning of February. But then now he's injured, hasn't played since, and it, obviously that's going to hurt him in these rankings. Like, I can't just place him in 5th, 4th, because he had a great month. That's not the way this works. So, Paul Pogba has the talent to be a top 5, top 4 player on any team he joins. But here, with the inconsistencies that we've seen throughout the year, he is at number 7. At number 6, we've got the captain, Harry Maguire. The center back. He's got 2 goals and an assist this season. He, came into the year with a lot of controversy. Everything that happened in the offseason. There was a lot of talk about whether he was even going to be playing this year. But he's come in and provided a solid presence in that back line. There's no denying it. I mean, he's not the same that he was last season. He's certainly still a presence in aerial duels. He's a very physical presence. He's usually in the right spot at the right time and has helped De Gea in most situations. But, and he's played and he started the most games this season. He started 40 games of his 41 appearances. That's more than anyone on the team. So he certainly has been a reliable player as well, since he's been able to be available for them. But, there's just something missing with Harry Maguire. I don't know whether it's that it factor as a defender or something. It's kind of like what guys like Sergio Ramos has shown throughout his career, or Virgil van Dijk is showing now. It's just that's what's missing from Harry Maguire, and that's why he can easily be seen as a negative for the team. But he has certainly been a physical presence. He's done a lot for the team, and that's why I have him at number 6, just outside the top 5, because I feel like there's a lot of guys, especially in his own back line, that have kind of helped in more ways than one. So. At number 5, I have Juan Basaka. He has kind of taken a step forward in terms of his attacking presence. That's always been the issue with Juan Basaka, because we know what he gives us on the defensive end. He's one of the best, if not the best, defensive fullback in the world. But this season, he's kind of been more, part of the attack. He's got 2 goals, 3 assists. Before last season, he hadn't had a goal at all in his career. That's always been the issue with him. Can he contribute in those other areas? And he has certainly done that this season. 85% passing in about, I'm going to say like 50, because I'm not going to try to put the calculations right now, but about 50 passes per game. That's a solid average there. And then when you're talking about his 21 key passes not per game, but 21 key passes throughout the season, 82 final third passes, which reminds me, Harry Maguire has 183 final third passes. Just wanted to put that out there before I move on from him. But still, Wan Basaka has been, as always, a dominating presence on the defensive end. That is never going to go away. He's going to always be one of, if not the best defender on this Manchester United team. He leads them in tackles. He by far leads them in blocks. He has 121 blocks this season. That's good for close to, 3 or 4 a game, which is just an absolutely ridiculous number. Nobody else is within, 50 of him? 55 blocks of him? So, I mean, the guy absolutely kills it on the defensive end. His interceptions as well. He's got 61 interceptions, second on the team. He just does so many different things for them defensively. But the fact that he has been able to take that extra step on the attack end has made me feel like Juan Basaka is a top 5 player for Manchester United this year. At number 4, we finally get to Fred, a man who has been a dominating presence for them in the midfield. He still has, of course, his inconsistencies. Like, defensively, he's strong. He is one of their better defenders, and that's why he is used so often, for the team. Like, he is second on the team in tackles. He is third on the team in interceptions behind just Harry Maguire and Wan Bissaka. He's second on the team in blocks, so he certainly does a lot of things for this team on that end. Offensively, he's also very solid, and that is why he is so high on this list, because he's able to, affect the game on both ends, control the tempo of the midfield, and he's got a bit more, experience than the younger Scott McTominay, so they rely on him a lot to, manage things in the midfield so that Bruno Fernandes can kind of move up a bit, be more a part of the attack. And Fred handles it perfectly. I mean, he completes 87.4% of his passes. You look at his key passes, got 20 key passes for the season, 150 final third passes as well. So, he's had a very, very solid season. Probably, in my opinion, the best season of his Manchester United career. And just for counting stats, he does have an assist, but he doesn't really affect the game on that that much that way. Like he gets the ball ahead, he makes the progressive pass, and then of course he defends at a high level. So Fred, in my opinion, is probably one of the most important pieces for this defense, as he kind of connects everything together and is a big time anchor in the midfield. At number 3, we have by far the biggest riser on this list, and I mean a guy who has really turned his career around, Luke Shaw. I never would have expected Luke Shaw to even make this list in the first place, but there is no denying that he has been an absolute monster at that left back position. Has pretty much put himself as the best left back in the Premier League, and that's pretty incredible to say, as you have Andrew Robertson at that position as well, but he's been at that level. 1 goal, 6 assists for the year. But on top of the fact that he has gotten incredibly confident with pushing the ball up, making the extra pass, being, very efficient on the attack end, he has been just as dominant defensively. I mean, he has been, nobody is dribbling past Luke Shaw this season. It is just facts. He's he's second. He's third on the team in tackles with 46, which is good for, close to about a tackle and a half per game. He's been, dribbling-wise, he's got a plus 55% possession. What am I trying to say? A plus 55% tackle percentage versus dribbling. So he has been the best tackler against dribblers this season for Manchester United. He just locks down that left side. And the fact that you have that developing alongside Wan Bissaka, who has been showing him to be a incredible defender, has been the biggest reason why Manchester United's defense has been so good. Those wings are locked up. He helps out on the blocks as well. He's tied for third in blocks per game. He gets interceptions. He just gets involved in so many different areas of the game. And when you're talking passing wise, I said his passing is solid. 81.1 pass complete. He completes 81.1% of his passes. I believe he's second on the team in key passes per game with nearly 2 a game. it's incredible what we're seeing from Luke Shaw this season. Huge development, and is why he's number 3 on this list. Has just been a huge development for them. At number 2, I have, of course, Marcus Rashford. The kid just continues to develop. He's kind of hit a bit of a wall since the really strong start, but he does have 18 goals, 11 assists to start, for in all competitions, which is second on the team in both. He's been huge, absolutely huge, and just continues to flash incredible potential. His athleticism is ridiculous. His pace, his ability to finish, his passing ability as well. He's got it all, and has been a big reason why Manchester United has been able to consistently stay near the top of the table. His ability to score for himself and create for others has been huge. He's got a high work rate. I love that about him. Because he's got all the energy in the world and he uses it in a very, very strong way. But yeah, Marcus Rashford comes in at number 2 because, of course, nobody is passing the number 1 talisman, Bruno Fernandes. The Portuguese midfielder has been in just incredible form. I mean, ever since he joined Manchester United, he has taken his game to another level. I mean, he was great at Sporting, but I mean, to do this in the Premier League and for a team as big as Manchester United cannot go understated. The man has 23 goals and 13 assists in all competitions. That's 36 goal involvement in 42 matches. I mean, that's just insane. The fact that he's just consistently been a part of everything that Manchester United does in attack. You always feel like the ball has a chance to go in when he has it at his feet. He is that good, and he's been a superstar for Manchester United. Was an incredible pickup, because if they hadn't gotten him and they had still been relying on solely Marcus Rashford, obviously Paul Pogba, Anthony Martial, Mason Greenwood, they would be severely lacking in that end. Severely. Bruno Fernandes gives them that spark, gives them that superstar that they really need, and hopefully can lead them to some Premier League glory, Champions League glory in the future. I mean, how old is he? He's only 26 years old. He's still got a lot of time ahead of him, which is just scary to think that he's already this good at that age. But yeah, man, Bruno Fernandes, number 1 player for Manchester United this season. It obviously should not be a surprise to absolutely anybody. So that's going to wrap it up for this show. I hope you guys enjoyed everything we talked about here. Of course, I'm always trying to bring in new things. But hope you guys enjoyed. So as always, thank you for listening to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I would really appreciate it. Thank you and have a great night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.